Well, what a privilege it is to come home. It's always good to come home, isn't it? And Kansas City is a great home to have. Unfortunately, there's not very many people in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, who've ever been to Kansas City. They act as if it's on the other side of the planet. So I'm just glad to be home. I am so grateful to have the opportunity to be with you today. And I want to first thank Robert Page for inviting me to be with you. And I want to thank the president of this campus and the other campuses who are here as well for allowing me to share with you this morning. Some of my family is here with me today as well. Some of my great nieces and nephews. And my newest great niece is here. She is number 80, our 88th grandchild in our family. So I was happy to see her and meet her for the first time. I've gotten to see lots of pictures, but it was a blessing for that. So I want to thank my family for coming today. And if the children get rowdy, we know how to manage them, don't worry. So Robert and I go back to Central Missouri State, and he knows that if he calls me, and if I can, I will answer the call. But I just don't want him to wear that out. But I'm grateful to him and to the others who are here today. And so I'd like to get to my topic quickly. And I'd like to talk for a moment, as you see on the screen, I'd like to talk about turning dreams into a reality. Turning dreams into a reality. Now, while this topic is a little cliche, and even maybe a little trite, because you've heard the word dream now 5 times this afternoon, I felt the need to use it anyway. For I believe that it is the fundamental foundation of everything great that has ever happened, is to understand how you take a dream and to turn it into a reality. Everything on the earth that's ever changed started with a dream that someone was able to move to a reality. But naturally, it's fitting for me to use the dream theme for a program where we're celebrating the life of Dr. King, a man who understood that dreaming alone would not change the world, but certain steps had to be enacted in this country if we were ever going to be moved forward. However, it is good to know that dreams are important, for dreams do allow us to exist in spaces where others may not or cannot go. It is the enactment of our souls through our imagination, for our imagination allows us to dream dreams that take up residence in our mind. And it is when we dream that we escape the bondage of human thinking and set our souls free to consider making the impossible possible. Are you with me? See, I knew I saw enough dark faces out here. I wasn't worried I was going to start talking to you. From childhood, many of us have been inundated with the notion that dreams come true simply by wishing. You remember the familiar song from Pinocchio, "When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are, makes no difference who you are. Anything that your heart desires will come true." The second verse says, "If your heart is in your dream, no request is too extreme. When you wish upon a star, as dreamers do." Now, we all know that it does matter who you are. Is that right? But I'm glad that King knew that wishing alone, like dreamers do, would not do if his dreams were going to turn into a reality. We can be lulled to sleep by Disney World, but we live in this world. And in this world, we must recognize that every dream that remains a dream falls pray to deferment. Langston Hughes challenged us to consider what happens to a dream deferred when he wrote, "What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it sags like a heavy load. Or does it explode?" Have your dreams exploded before you could turn them into a reality? You see, screaming and holding up signs to illustrate injustice is important. But make no mistake, those actions alone will not change dreams into a reality. Looting and burning down stores and businesses in our own neighborhood will draw attention to the issue, but it will not turn dreams into reality. It just destroys someone else's dreams. Die-ins have their place. Holding our hands in the air and exclaiming that we are having difficulty breathing in this country is important. But that alone will not turn a dream into a reality. So what must we do to turn dreams into a reality? Your dreams for this country, your dreams for Kansas City, your dreams for metropolitan community colleges, your dreams for your own children, your dreams for yourself. What must be done to turn a dream into a reality? Let's examine for a moment the words of King. Now you know that King was a minister. So I would like to take a text this morning. Now, Black and African American folks don't get nervous. I don't really mean it. However, in the Black church vernacular, the word text is not something that you receive on the phone. It is the scripture that will be used to build the lesson contained in the message that is to be delivered. So as opposed to using scripture this morning, I'd like to use King's messages. And I'd like to use his message, "I've been to the mountaintop," as our learning tool, to serve as our text for instructions on how to turn a dream into a reality. Are you with me still? As I examine the text, I find three major instructions that will assist us as we try to turn our dreams into a reality. First, you must have a mountaintop mentality. You must be willing to stay focused and take strategic actions. And lastly, you must not allow fear to turn you around. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the first text. When he says in his speech, "And he allowed me to go up to the mountaintop, and I have looked over, and I have seen the promised land." He then goes on to explain, "I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land." King said these words, and he allowed us to hear him say that he may not get with us, prophesizing his own death, but he saw something greater. He believed in something greater. So we find these words at the end of his speech where he is trying to instruct us more on what we must do in order to make our dreams turn into a reality. We must be able to see something greater. Now, King was talking about our civil rights, but I need you to get into your mind your own dreams. I need you to step inside your own systems and your own places of work, in your own communities, in your own families, and think about your own dreams about here today. And what do you see? What do you see? A mountaintop mentality is one that is able to get above what one knows to be true. It rises above the epistemological truth and designs a new truth, a new norm. An author by the name of I.R. Hilliard once said that nothing great ever happens without visualization, internalization, and verbalization. In this passage, we can observe King taking all of those actions. He is able to see that which has not happened. You see, if you're going to realize your dream, you've got to be able to see it first. You can't convince me of your dream if you can't see it really for yourself. And if you can really see it for yourself, you'll begin to internalize it. And that internalization makes you believe that the impossible can be possible. I sit here today and I look at the graduation rate of college students across the country, and it is dismal. It is dismal, my colleagues and my friends. How many students come out the door, and in this country, only 50% of the population who walks into higher education walk out of higher education with a degree. Somebody needs to have a dream. Do you agree? Yes. If you can't see it for yourself, if you can't believe it for yourself, you cannot defy the natural order of things. Your dream is bound to exist only in your imagination. But you have to see it and then internalize it to a point where you believe it. Because if you believe it, the proverb says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth will speak. And once you believe it and you can see a change, you can see something different, it is at that point, it is at that time that you will begin to talk about it. And you'll begin to talk about it in a way that it will excite others about your dream. If you really believe it. If you really internalized it, you'll be able to talk about it in a way that those who doubted your belief and your decision and your dream in the past will come and grab hands with you and walk with you and march with you to a better day. But if you can't see it, if you can't believe it, it cannot happen. Think about this for a moment. Nearly everything that you have in your life today, you have it because you could see it. You have it because you believed you could get it. And you told somebody that you were going to get it. Am I right? I don't care what it is. It can be a Michael Kors bag. I don't care what it is. You told somebody that you were going to get it. Is that right? When I was younger, I always wanted a Cadillac. Because I thought that Cadillacs were great because the people at my church, I thought, who drove Cadillacs, always got to park closer to the church. and we parked way away in our station wagon, and I thought, I never crossed my mind that we were just late all the time, but I thought that possibly that if I could get a Cadillac, I could be a little bit closer to the power source. So all my life, literally all my life, I would ask my parents, why can't we have a Cadillac? I don't understand why we can't have a Cadillac. Never denied you that we had 11 children. Why can't we have a Cadillac? And so I decided to major in education, not Cadillac behavior. At least it's not new Cadillac behavior. And while I was making $700 a month, young people, a month, I was making $700 a month. I was proud of my $700 a month. While I was making $700 a month, I still believed that someday I would be driving a Cadillac, although at that point I was driving a 1972 Dodge Dart. I adopted twin boys. But I kept on believing that someday, even though I was driving a minivan, that someday I would indeed drive a Cadillac. My boys were so indoctrinated to the concept that even as little boys, they would see Cadillacs and they would say, that's a nice car, Mom. Because I had spoken so very often. You see, it didn't matter to me whether I was 85, no teeth, dragging a cane, barely walking. I believed that someday, yes, I was going to drive a Cadillac. I've had two now. You have to get above your current thinking. You have to get above your current truth if you're going to turn your dream into a reality. But seeing is not enough. I know a whole lot of folks who talk about their dreams, but they never realize them. It's not enough to say, just say I want it. You must be willing to stay focused and strategically take action. You must be willing to stay focused, you with me? And to strategically take action. Someone once said that action speaks louder than words. Is that right? Let's look back at another text. When King says, we've got to stay together. We've got to stay together and maintain unity. Secondly, let us keep the issues where they are. What he's saying here, my friends, is we've got to stay focused. And we've got to stick together to get this done. The issue is injustice. We can never forget what our dream is. Oftentimes, I wanted to do an exercise with you, but my time's going to run out, so I can't do it. So just stick with me, okay? Oftentimes we lose focus of our dreams because we allow life to come in and to take us in different directions and to take us off cue, or we allow some naysayer to come in and tell us that we will never obtain that dream, so we should stop. And we subconsciously initially listen to them as opposed to speaking back to them with words of confidence to remind them that you can get what you say that you get if you will stick with it and take the right strategic action. Are you with me? So then he says the issue is injustice. Stay focused on the issue. Stay focused on the issue. And so as a result of this, we're asking you tonight to go out and tell your neighbors not to buy Coca-Cola in Memphis. Go and tell your neighbors, tell them not to buy Seal Test milk. You guys remember Seal Test milk? Yes. Right, Seal Test milk. Right here, you can see. Tell them not to buy Wonder Bread. Tell them, he had a bunch of tell them not to. Strategically acting. In that speech, he goes on to say that black people at that point in time, and still today, are still the poorest people in this country. But he said collectively, strategic talk. Collectively, we are a rich people. And if we use our collectiveness, we can make a difference. And I say to you today as educators, we can make a difference. We can get these kids in and we can get these kids out if we collectively start dreaming, if we collectively start taking action, if we stop thinking so much just about ourselves and our own employment and reach and lift up those who are behind us strategically, we can change things. You have to stay focused. Because if you get off the mission, if you get off the dream, indeed, we will remain where we are. We will remain, you will remain in your community, in your home, in this society, in the world where you are. And it is time for us to live past some of the dreams. You have to think about this with your own life in so many different ways. Are you miserable in your current job because you refuse to take strategic actions to get into a job where you can make a difference? And because you are miserable, you have found comfort in your discomfort. You tend to make the rest of us who love what we're doing crazy. So we who are loving every day, we who are taking strategic actions to make the world better where we stand every day, would like for you who are not going this direction to take a march somewhere else. Because it's going to take dreams and strategic action and focus. And when you take our focus away because you are in the wrong place, you do more destruction to to us than assisting us by your showing up each day. Think about it. There once was a woman who was on Skid Row, and some folks went by and picked her up because it was their dream to help people get off of Skid Row. And they picked her up off of Skid Row, and they took her to a shelter where she could get off drugs. She could be in a warm place. She could have home and shelter. And they were feeling good because they were on their mission. They were taking action. But what they did not realize was that you can't have somebody else's dream. You are only designed to carry the load that you were designed to carry. And when you carry others' loads that you were designed to carry, you get in the way of their progress. So this woman, within 24 hours, was trying to get bus fare to get back to Skid Row. Now, they were so disappointed when they recognized that this woman was leaving Skid Row. But here's what the woman said. She said, I didn't know where to put my blanket in that shelter. But I know where to put my blanket on Skid Row. She had got comfortable in her discomfort. You see, there's two messages there. I've given you one, but the second message is, have you gotten comfortable in your discomfort? And is it time for you to have a new dream? Is it time for you to go someplace? You know, oftentimes we work because we say we're working to retirement. We're working to retirement. I want to let you know that we all die in retirement. I just want to remind you that something happens in retirement. It happens to everybody in retirement. At some point during retirement, you're going to die. And if you have worked your whole life to work to retirement, and you have missed out on all the rest of your life simply because you wouldn't take action on your own dream, you will have missed out on life. So the question is, do you have time to miss out on life? And lastly, you cannot allow fear to turn you around. The text says, he's talking about the officer, and Bull Connor would tell them to send the dogs for him. And they did come. We just went before the dogs singing. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around. You know they were singing, I just want to sing that up. Now Bull Connor next would say, turn the fire hose on. And as I said to you the other night, Bull Connor didn't know history. He knew a kind of physics that somehow didn't relate to the trans physics that we knew about. And that was the fact that there was a certain kind of fire that no water could put out. If you're going to turn a dream from a dream to reality, there must be some kind of fire in your belly. And I'm going to tell you, life is much worth living when there's fire in your belly to make a difference in the places that you stay in. Success is often talked about in our society. But in actuality, success can be very empty. Now, we know that success can be empty because all those millionaires are always killing themselves. You think you got everything, don't you? But the reality, success is really not enough. And something that I have been driving my students to at the University of Pittsburgh is to say, success is the floor of my expectation for your life. I hope that you will try to live a life of significance. That you will make a difference for the people that you come in contact first in your own home. You see, we don't talk to the students enough about their own home. First, your first responsibility on the planet is to make a difference in your own home, and then in your community, and then in the society, and some of them, I hope, will make a difference in the world. If King had only been concerned with his own success, I wouldn't be standing before you today. A little girl from 40th and Prospect, the 10th of 11 children, the daughter of a bricklayer and a secretary. My mother also graduated from Penn Valley at the age of 50. So I wouldn't be standing before you. A little girl who was a part of the first desegregation plan in Kansas City, Missouri. You see, they sent all the children from 40th and Prospect on the right side of the street out to the white neighborhoods. And it was my first experience with discrimination in kindergarten. I was in kindergarten the year that Martin Luther King died. And interestingly enough, it is the fight that he made that really causes all of us to sit together today in this room. But had he only been concerned about his own success, had he not been concerned about gathering up others so that we could make the world better, had he been afraid, had he not realized that fear is only false evidence appearing to be real, he too would have just been successful, but we would have been in another place today. It is because he didn't allow anyone to turn them around. It is because they kept marching that they were able to get us to a greater place. And I say to you, my challenge to you today is, what will you march on? What will you stand up for? What will you say enough is enough and something has got to change? Be that on your campus, be that in the community, be that in the world. Let me close by telling you a story of a man who stood in front of the casket of his friend. Usually when a black minister says that, it doesn't mean anything, but I'm really closing. It means 15 more minutes. Okay? All right. And he stood in front of the casket of his friend, and he told his friend, he said, the year that my friend here who died, the year that he died, the death date, he had no control. And he said the year that he was born, the birthday, they said he had no control over. But the time in between the birth date and the death date, they said he had a whole lot of control. That time in between the birth date and the death date, that dash, he had a whole lot of control. And he began to talk about what his friend had done with his dash. He began to talk about all the lives that would be different forever because of his dash. He began to talk about all of the systems that had been put into place that would be permanently a part of the structure of our existence because of his dash. And with tears streaming down his face, he said that his life would never be the same because of the dash of his friend. And when my dash is read, I hope that it tells those who are listening that I had a great life. That I worked with one of the world's most natural resources called students. I hope they don't spend time talking about nonsense. But I hope they say that I was a good mother to David and Daniel and a good wife to Lyle. I've been working on that for 30 years. I hope they don't talk about my Cadillac. Because I got a new dream now. Have you seen that Mercedes out of I hope we don't talk about the countries I've seen, the places I've been, the positions I've held, the people I've sat with, the millionaires I knew. I hope we don't talk about all of that. But what I hope they talk about is that I made a difference in the places where I stood. I hope they talk about that I strengthened young people, that my living was not in vain, and that I left legacies behind to keep on keeping on. What will your dash say? What will your dash say? If I can help somebody as I pass along the way, if I can cheer anybody with a word or song, if I can show one person that he's great, not small, then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain. Oh, my living shall not be in vain. If I can show one person that she's great, not small, then my living shall not be in vain. Then my living shall not be in vain.